Global besties, welcome to 1,000 Miles Pod. You belong here. That feels so good, guys. Global besties, welcome back to 1,000 Miles Pod. This is our 5th episode, which we cannot believe. We were just talking about how quickly it's gone by recording these. It is the joy of our lives right now. Maybe that's dramatic, but maybe it's not. Other than Taylor and Travis getting engaged, we are recording this on the morning that the world found out that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged. And as Nikki and I are Swifties and Tyler is a new Swiftie, that's important. The podcast episode will not be about that, but that is important going into it. Today we are recording from 7,250 miles away, which is depressing.
That is mad. And if, like me, you do not use miles and you use kilometers, I fear we're just going to have to get used to this because the podcast, 1,609 kilometers, did not have the same ring as the 1,000 Miles Pod. So we're just going to have to, get on with it.
We're just like ringing in random kilometers.
I love it. We have so much to catch up on from our personal lives over the last, it's been about, a week since we last recorded, and also diving back into the stories of how we got into content creation. I know last week we were going to talk about all three in the last episode and kind of ended up talking a little bit more about my story. But today we're going to dive into Nikki's story of how she got into content creation. Maybe we'll also talk about Ty. We may save that for another pod, but we will see where the winds take us today.
Yeah, 100%. I am, just so everybody knows, I am so stuck on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce getting engaged that if I seem completely scatterbrained in this, you know why. I absolutely lost my mind about an hour and a half ago when Maddie texted me.
Oh my God. Nikki was sat opposite me, and the way that she inhaled, I genuinely felt like the frizz from my hair was going down her throat. And then she started jumping along. She was jumping around, and I thought her head was going to hit the ceiling, and all of the birds in the area flew away. It was wild.
And she goes, what? And I thought I had said Travis and Taylor got engaged, and apparently I just said, they're engaged.
I was like, who?
Absolutely lost my mind. I wish we would have filmed that because holy cow, I literally can't think straight. I have been a Swiftie since day one, you guys. Like, debut album, I've been a mad Swiftie, so this is like a really big deal. This is my royal wedding.
Has Taylor Swift impacted your content creation journey at all?
Yeah, I think so. And like, in a business stance, she's like a boss-ass businesswoman, which is like really admirable. But also like her ability to be like, yeah, I can be taken seriously and wear the color pink is, I think, very impressive as well. And yeah, she just, watching her grow through like every era of her life, I think has really empowered, like, and share that with the world has really empowered me to be like, okay, yeah, like I can share certain aspects of certain things and like do that, and it's not weak or less than anyone else because I'm a girl and I like pink.
I love that.
Preach.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we should say that today we are recording, like we said, from over 7,000 miles apart. So where are you guys?
We're still in Guernsey.
Yep, we're both in Guernsey still. Where are you, Maddie, more importantly, because you have been moving around?
I have been moving around. We are finally home back in Kauai. We got home a little less than a week ago, and it has been a rodeo of a time since we got home, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point later today.
But you've been traumatized in the last 24 hours?
I have been traumatized in the last 24 hours. So yeah, so we are back on a rock in the Pacific Ocean. You guys are on a rock in the British Channel. We are rocking it. I actually hate puns, so that made me a little nauseous to say that.
Hey, nauseous than what's been happening.
I feel like Maddie is skirting around what has been happening, and Nikki's like, so tell us more.
Like, don't crack jokes.
Okay,
let her say
we're just going to talk about it. We're just going to rip the Band-Aid off and do it because Global Besties, every single one of you listening to this will have to go through what I just went through. I'm so sorry to tell you, but I'm here as your guiding light. Hopefully you don't have to go through it for a while, but I had a colonoscopy yesterday, yes, at the age of 33. I had to have one way earlier than people normally have to have them for a myriad of reasons. We're trying to figure out some like digestive stuff, and I also have a family history of colon cancer. It's a little bit removed, just with my great grandparents, so they weren't incredibly concerned about that connection, but they were like, given the history, 33 years old, here we go. So we're recording this on a Tuesday. For those of you who don't know, aren't familiar with the colonoscopy process, the 24 hours before you have a colonoscopy, you have to fast, which part of why we're figuring out all of these issues is because I have like crazy blood sugar crashes and just like extreme hanger. Like, not like, oh, I'm hungry, now I'm getting hangry. Like, I will be totally fine, and then I'll be like passing out within a span of a few minutes.
I've seen this. This
And
is
like all I
valid.
see is red. And so that, knowing the context of the fasting day, going, into that, I was really anxious about, like, the reason I'm doing this is because I have issues when I don't eat, and then I'm not eating for 24 hours. So it was a rodeo. My sweet husband and one of my good friends who lives on the island came over. Well, Patrick lives here, so he just was there. But the three of us binge watched during my fast day on Sunday. We binge watched the entire first season of We Were Liars, which
You made it through the whole
is
season.
yeah. Nikki was like, "Tell me how the first episode goes," and I was like, "Well, I watched the whole first season," which was crazy. I have such mixed emotions on that show. But we watched that all day Sunday, and then starting, colonoscopy prep is not for the faint of heart. I was on colonoscopy prep TikTok as I was perishing all day on Sunday night. And the good news is I'm not alone, because several people were like, I've had 3 babies and colonoscopy prep is the hardest thing I've ever done. So I don't know about that, but we will spare you details. But what you have to do is a certain amount of time before your procedure. For me, it was 5 p.m. on Sunday night. My procedure was Monday. At 5 p.m. you have to take like 3 to 4. I had to take 3. Some people take 4, but I had to take 3 like Dulcolax tablets, which are like, I guess, stool softeners, or I don't know if they're actually laxatives or what, but I had to take those. And then that part's not bad. And then 2 hours later, for me, you have to drink this solution. And the solution, depending on what doctor you're with, is like a combination of different things. For me, it was like 238 grams. It was an entire massive bottle of Miralax and mixed into yellow Gatorade. So
Oh my
I
God.
had to drink, yeah, and it's timed. So at 7 p.m. the night before, I had 1 hour to drink half the solution. So it was like 118 grams of Miralax and like 30 something ounces of Gatorade. When you mix it all together, it's about like 40, like like it's a big chunk of powder. So by the time you mix it all together, it ends up being like over 40, I don't know, ounces of water, like of liquid. And you have 1 hour to consume that, which normally is not a huge deal. Like, I can drink a giant Hydro Flask in an hour, but it's like sickly sweet, and it's just like, ugh. So you have to do that once the night before, and then you have to do the second half of the solution the morning of, about 4 hours before your procedure. So I made the mistake of going way too hard the first time, and I drank the whole solution in like less than 20 minutes. I think it was like 18 minutes.
You were chugging that down.
Oh my
I was
God.
chugging it, and I never regretted anything more in my life because I was so unbelievably nauseous just from the volume of liquid that I had
Yeah.
in my stomach, on an empty stomach too. And then, like, if you throw up, you have to start over. It's a whole thing. So
Oh
I
my
was
God.
like, my body was like shaking. Patrick was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I am actually unwell. I do not know what to do." And then it turns out that the whole point of that solution is to clean you out, and that starts promptly after you do that.
Shocking.
So
Shocking. Okay.
yeah.
You could never trust a fart.
So oh my
I
gosh,
wouldn't trust a
it
burp.
was
Like,
rough. So
God forbid
you
you
drink
sneeze.
that. Oh my gosh, I cannot.
It's coming out
Ugh,
of every orifice.
I will not divulge all of what happened, but we had to do laundry. To do laundry.
Oh.
It was horrible. I kept being like, Patrick, don't look at me. And he was like, I'm gonna have to do this. So it's good for us to just figure out how to do this stuff together. I've never felt so vulnerable, legitimately. So yeah, the night before you do that, as you can imagine, that whole night is pretty rough. I did sleep more than I thought I would, and then you have to wake up. For me, because of the time of my procedure, I had to wake up at 6:30, and I had 1 hour to drink the second half of the solution. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to do baby sips this time. Like, we're not going hard on it. And then I drank it too slow. And so I had like 7 minutes. I think, Nikki, I texted you. I was like, I have 7 minutes to drink the rest of this. So then I was chugging and was like, I cannot get this right. So I learned a lot there. And then, yeah, checked in about 4 hours later at the hospital for day surgery for the procedure. And I've had multiple actual surgeries, like been under general anesthesia. This is just like a propofol. It's like the second lowest level of sedation you get. But yeah, I checked in and everyone was great. I was nervous, which is interesting
That
because,
was
like
the
I said, I've
second
had like
lowest
actual
level of
surgeries.
sedation?
What was that?
That was the second lowest level of sedation. Girl, the videos you sent, you were full of...
You were flying.
I haven't watched them back, but I think it was about graham crackers and maybe when I was on the bench.
Yeah. And like when the first video you sent, you were like slinging an arm around, and I was like, and you didn't even like really, you didn't say anything. You just sent this video and then said like, I made it or something. You maybe said something about a graham cracker, and then I was like, on a scale of 1 to 13, like how high are you right now? Because the arm is giving 13. And then you sent another video and you were like, so that's a graham cracker.
Oh, I need to watch them back. I do think I sent a video to my friend Kelsey also, keeping up with Kelsey, because she was like, what in the world? So, yeah.
So funny.
So,
I was laughing so hard.
It was a rodeo. I survived it. I felt really proud of myself.
Yeah, we're proud of you too.
Yeah, because that's intense.
Yeah. And if you take anything from this, it is to look after yourself, because you've done everything that you needed to in order to look after your health and, you know, yourself in the future. So well done you for actually doing that.
Thanks.
Yeah, and
so
volunteering for that early in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely let this serve as a PSA, Global Besties, to just go see a doctor. If you're not feeling well, go see a doctor. They did cut 2 polyps out, which are small, but polyps are what, left alone, become cancerous. So I don't know if every polyp becomes cancerous, but that is like what causes colon cancer. So they're doing like all the pathology. They think that they will not be. There's not really a reason for us to suspect it, but yeah, you never know. Because again, I'm 33 and they found small polyps. So if I had waited just until my normal colonoscopy time at 45 or 50, whatever the age is, who knows? So I'm not saying go rush out and get a colonoscopy, but I am saying it's a gift to have access to medical care, even if it's expensive, and go use it, because it is nerve-wracking, but it's always good to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We love a good Miralax flush.
Never again. We bought so much Gatorade too that we like got home and I was like, I don't want to see it. Get it out of the house.
Traumatized.
It's like
I was traumatized.
Whatever your first alcohol addiction was, and you were like a kid and you're like the thing you just overdid that you can't even look at now.
Oh yeah. No, that's how I feel, unfortunately, about yellow Gatorade.
Or Nikki with wine after Rome sailing. But I'm sure we'll come on to that.
I guys, we'll have to get into that. Global Besties at some point, my wine night on Rome sailing. But I did have a couple of glasses of wine the other night for the first time since then.
Oh my gosh.
I was pushing it. I probably could have waited another week.
Well, the real reason we're here today is to continue our conversation from last week that definitely ebbed and flowed and evolved, which we love on this pod. But Nikki, we want to know, how did you get into the world of content creation? If you guys missed our conversation in episode 4, go listen to it, because we gave our perspectives and just kind of some vulnerability around, you know, our lives in this field and kind of what the difference is between content creation and being an influencer. And I think that's a really helpful conversation to kind of give some framework to jumping into both Nikki and Ty's stories. But yeah, we're going to start, Nikki, with you. You are the resident actual professional photographer. You are one of the most talented photographers that I know. So walk us through, how did you get into photography? And then, you know, not all photographers are content creators. So what was the jump from photography to content creation? Tell us everything.
I love it when you circle things up so perfectly like that. I'm like, wow, she's on it. I couldn't have said that way to save my life. Yeah, so photography, I guess that's probably the best place to start. I I have never in my life really thought about doing much of anything else, to be honest. I grew up watching, I'm pretty sure we discussed this at one point in one of like the earlier episodes about like how we kind of got to where we are and met each other and stuff. But growing up, I watched loads of Nat Geo and that kind of stuff with my mom. Like anything that we could watch about the rest of the world, her and I had watched. And I remember at one point she had said something like, how, like, I think there was like a conversation of me being like, whoa, this is so cool. Somebody gets to like go capture this and go see it. And I'd never really grasped, because we weren't a family that like went on vacations, that like anyone could really go. I'd kind of grasped that, I guess, to go a little bit further back. In my elementary school, there were these people who came in every year and they gave this presentation. They biked around the world every year. So they would spend 6 months working and then they would spend 6 months literally biking around the world. And they would come into our school and give these like presentations and show these kind of like untouched, uncommercialized or like advertised or documented things that weren't like in Nat Geo necessarily or on like mainstream anything. And they would just be like, look at this cool experience that we did biking around the world. And I vividly remember seeing these people with their tents and their bikes next to flowing lava on a volcano and being like, what do you mean? Like, you were there with your bikes and your beings next to an active volcano and you just slept there. Like, you've had, like, it's crazy enough to have had the experience of seeing an active volcano and like in my elementary school brain survived it, but you're meaning to tell me that you also slept next to it. Like, that's crazy. And then you just got on your bike and kept biking around the world. Like, that's nuts, you know?
And now they're in front of you talking to you about it.
Yeah. And now they're literally sitting in my elementary school giving this presentation and I am enthralled. I'm like, who are you people? I'm obsessed with you. They're like influencers without the internet. So then, to circle it back to like watching things with my mom, to circle it all back with my mom is then I'm a little bit older and I'm watching these things with her and going like, how cool is it that like somebody's out capturing like these things that I'm now watching on my TV. And I, at that point, had gotten really excited about the quality of the visuals I was seeing and like how are you getting that close to like an Arctic fox and like seeing the zoom out of that. And like, then it became really exciting about, oh, this is nuts. Like, these people are going out and camping for hours in one spot under camouflage, sometimes days, waiting for like a bear or a mountain lion or something to pass by. Obviously very different to our modern age technology to that stuff, but I was so enthralled by all of it. And my mom at one point said like, how cool would it be if you became a photographer and were able to go capture those things? And I was like, that would be so sick. And at that point, my grandma had already started handing me disposable cameras. Like almost every week for a very long period of time, my grandma was handing me disposable Kodak cameras and saying, go do what you want, bring it back to me and I'll get it developed. And she would go get them developed and I'd have these prints of me and my friends or my dog or flowers or whatever, like the backyard, literally anything. And then I started to get a little crazy and my grandma was like, okay, we can't be doing this every week kind of thing. But then in middle school, I got my first little digital camera. I still have it. I wish it worked. But I still have it. And I brought that to school and I single-handedly was responsible for the entire senior slideshow by the time I graduated with like the rest of my class. They went and like downloaded all these photos and ended up showing like literally every memory that like we had from being hooligans from 6th grade onwards. By the time I graduated, it was like, where do I go to school? Is photography for real? And the only thing I had was the art school I ended up going to came in and sent a rep to my school. And I was like, oh, this really sounds like it's for me. And then I saw the price tag, which was $100,000. And I was like, that's not for me. I come from a low income family. Can't do that. And I applied to 2 schools. I went to university in Nebraska for a semester, hated it, was trying to choose an art something, didn't find a degree that I liked in that, transferred home to a different school, didn't find anything that I liked in that. And was like, literally wasn't even just looking at like art degree things. I was looking at anything related to anything creative or something I was slightly interested in. I thought about like studying genealogy and like some other kind of history things and couldn't get behind any of it. I was like, there's no way I would make it through this program and then have a career that I loved. So I eventually transferred and got accepted into the Art Institute of Colorado in Denver. I actually got accepted into a school in California, but my mom said that she wouldn't help me move there because she thinks California is going to fall off the side of the continent and she would never come see me. And that was mortifying to 18-year-old me. So I was like, okay, I'll go to school in Colorado. And so, yeah, I got the photography degree, and it was intense getting that degree. That was probably some of the hardest schooling I've ever done. We didn't have breaks. We did a quarterly schedule. So we had 11 weeks at a time, 4-hour classes, and we just went hard, really, really hard. But I learned a little bit of everything, from high-end editorial fashion photography to architecture to studio lighting to like film, literally everything. I had to dip my toes in it to graduate. And then after graduation, I was really dead set on I was going to become like a photo editor for a magazine. Like I was going to move to New York City and I was going to somehow get in with a magazine and I was going to like work my way up and I was going to be a photo editor. That didn't work out. I didn't even get anywhere near a magazine, to be honest. But I worked like so many jobs as a photographer, just trying to see if there's anything else I liked. Because I did really like art history in school. So I thought about getting a master's and like doing something in the fine art world. I did some assisting for a fine art collector. This was one of the coolest things, guys. I'm going to nerd out for a moment. We obviously had to we had to study photography and art history and in immense detail in order to graduate. And those were like my classes. Like I graduated with really good grades, but like I screwed the curve for everyone in my classes when it came to the history stuff because that was like my jam. And this woman I worked for had almost every single photographer that I had studied in school. She had at least one piece of their work.
Wow.
That I got to just like hold or look at, like not even through glass.
That's so
like,
cool. Oh
on a daily basis. Yeah. It was unreal.
That must have sparked so much inspiration for you as well.
Yeah. And that was like, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, do I go back to school for art history? Do I like dive deeper into the fine art world? And I spent a lot of time going to galleries and like, I was like ready to just like dive straight into it. Like that was probably like the closest I came to like, oh, this is what I'm going to do in the industry outside of becoming a photo editor for a magazine. Like that was probably like the closest I came to changing my life on that. But while I was in school was when influencers started to become a thing. And not in like a, oh, fun influencers, in like a, oh, you're an influencer? You're on Instagram? Like kind of thing? Like not good.
So
not good.
The judgment kind of started early.
Oh, early. Like there was a guy that I went to school with that started a brand and had his photos. Like he started a separate brand, was also a really good photographer, ended up shooting for Nike, had his photos on the homepage of Nike, and then took his brand and partnered with the U.S. women's soccer team to do their warm-up shirts with Nike. All because he was posting online. Not all because, but like that was part of it. And he had like 20,000 followers. And we all still were like, oh, you're an influencer. Like we all still were giving this guy shit. And he was paying for school, like, and partnering with Nike. Like, So it was a very different world. Very different world. I didn't even know what to think. And then by the time I had left New York and decided that I wanted to travel more than anything, I was like, all right, I think I want to post online. And I started in YouTube. Like, I wanted to have YouTube be my thing. I made YouTube videos of like living in Austria, and they weren't good. And then I started inconsistently posting on Instagram, trying to do a little bit more generalizations versus like I'm just posting to my friends about like, oh, hey, I went to this cool thing, or in like some punny caption, like a little bit more in detail. I honestly had no idea what I was doing. Like, not a freaking clue. But I was like a sponge. Anything that I could find that was free to teach me about content creation and making money from it, I was like sucking it in. I was like, I gotta have it. And then by 2020, I had lost my last corporate job. I was a marketing manager for a commercial real estate company.
Was that because of COVID or?
Yeah. They had said budget cuts, and I mean, it turned out to be a whole bunch of other stuff, but it was all drama. We don't need to talk about it. It was a little messy, but yeah. And that was in June of 2020. And I went for a hike. At this point, I was doing a ton of alpine lake hiking in Colorado. And I went on the first hike post losing my job and being like, what the hell am I going to do right now? But I had been talking a big game about like, oh, if I start posting online, I can build a following, build a business, and I can travel. I'm seeing people do it. There's no reason that I can't, like the OGs. There was like Chelsea Kawai and Sorella Moore and like Marie and Jake, like all of the like OG travel people that I was like, okay, I can do this. Like I don't, and I know I don't need 1 million followers to do it. Like it wasn't insane. I was like, okay. And so I went on my first hike post losing my job, and I sat down on this rock. I pulled away from the group. I set up my phone. I literally filmed this. I should go find that video at some point. I've literally never looked at it. I've never looked at it since. And I sat down on this rock and I spoke out loud over this lake to myself about like, this is it, Nikki. Like, you're changing your life right now. You don't have an option. Like, you don't want another option. You don't want a plan B. You're picking plan A, and plan A is going to work.
I've just got chills.
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed.
And it was like 10 minutes of me just sitting there trying to like unpack like every insecurity I felt in it, and like every little thing of being like fighting all of the voices in my head of anybody who's ever told me I can't do anything that I know I'm capable of, and like all of it. It was just me like trying to unpack it and being like, if there's a time, the time is now. Like, yeah, the world is falling apart and you feel a lot of empathy for all of that, and you hope it doesn't get any worse for you, because at this point, the beginning of COVID was terrible for me. Like, not as bad as I know it was for a lot of other people, but it wasn't good for me and my family. And so I was just like coming out of this, no job, no idea how I was going to make money and make it work. I'm paying almost $2,000 a month in rent. Like, and I had a dream that I wanted to see the world, and I needed photography and art to be the base of it. And from that point on, it was a lot of really, really messy action. And sometimes a lot of no action, because I'd get paralyzed by it. Sorry, I gotta take a drink.
No, you did a good thing.
That's so real. Yeah. No, it's so amazing. We'll circle back to something, we can continue, but circle back to something you said earlier. I love, literally with my whole heart, I love that part of your experience. And Ty, I don't know if you ever had your version of this. I know I probably did at some point, but I love that, Nikki, part of your story with this was that like humbling moment of like, wait, what if this whole like quote unquote influencer thing actually is more than I thought?
Yeah.
And I think those are the most beautiful stories when we do change our minds, you know, or we do have a perspective shift. Like once we actually sit down and kind of open our eyes and like humble ourselves and learn about something, I think those are the most beautiful stories. So I'm not surprised that's part of your story. I know I hadn't heard you talk about that in particular, but I can only imagine for you as like a true like trained photographer and artist, the grappling with this Instagram app when it came out in like whatever 2010, 11 when it started getting big, and just being like this probably cheapens art, or like this just like I have such conflicting feelings. And then for you to, for this to be your primary platform all these years later, I think kudos to you for the humility and growth and just like willingness to learn and like also make it your own thing and like redefine it under your terms. It is so cool to watch.
Yeah, no, I think that was a very real part of it too, was in school being like, we had countless conversations in class about what Instagram was doing to how people viewed art. I mean, obviously, specifically photographs. And at the time, before Instagram really popped off, it was like the average person spent 3 seconds looking at a photo before they looked away from it, whether that was like on their phone, on a wall in a gallery, like wherever. It was like you had 3 seconds. Now people look at a photo for less than a second.
Unless you are looking at Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce getting engaged.
Facts. Then
Because
you're gonna
these
look at that
two were
for 25 minutes.
scrolling those photos.
I will be staring at those until I fall asleep tonight. But that's the Swiftie in me. But yeah, it was crazy to watch that in real time, how Instagram was changing the way people view photography. It was like, and it was also crazy to watch where like it didn't even have to be technically sound photography anymore. And I can't even say like I scroll Instagram, and if I sit down in like the brain that I was taught to be in as a photographer in school and look at people's work, there's things that we would pick apart in my classes of like, oh, this could be better if this could be better if this isn't a good photo because these things could be better and they're not. Where like now I've kind of flipped that, where I'm like, I don't need to put that pressure on myself or other people who are creating and sharing on Instagram to be, oh, it could be better if they did something slightly different. Like it's unnecessary. I don't need to do that. And I think like you were saying, having that flip to just like educate or try and understand something that's a little different was huge. It was massive.
Yeah, I also love the part of your story where, although you kind of, I guess, had a little bit of a nudge with losing your corporate job, you really took the reins and you were like, this is my chance and I'm going to take it. Despite what's happening in the world at the moment, like, this is an opportunity that I'm really going to run with. And that's so admirable.
Yeah, I literally did not give myself a plan B. I was like, we're doing it. We're sending
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious for you, Nikki. This is such an interesting dynamic, I feel like, with all creatives, not just creators, like anyone in an artistic or creative space, inside or outside of social media. It's almost like a joke that it's a parent's worst nightmare for, you know, your kids to like become artists or like go into that as a career. And I think there's a lot of stigma sometimes around it, and especially like with friends and support systems. So this is why we call you Nikki the Brave, because you've only touched on, just dynamics at home and like COVID and all that stuff and what was going on and like the relationship that you talked about ending, a couple episodes back. But you were doing this in a very tumultuous time for you personally, like with stuff that was going on. You were making some of these incredibly brave decisions. Did you feel like you were doing that with support of anyone, or was it more just like, I am looking in the mirror and I'm the only one championing me and I just have to do it?
I think with my family, even going to art school, it was, like my mom has always been like, do what you want, whatever makes you happy, that's what she wants. And for the most part, my immediate family is very supportive. Like, and I'm saying like for the most part in the sense that like they're all supportive, but they don't necessarily like understand thoroughly. Like it's sometimes they say things and I'm like, oh, we're confused on a couple of things, but it's not out of like malice. It's not like they're not supportive. I have had like some extended family members make very rude comments and unsupportive comments about even the degree that I have. Before I even graduated, it was like, what are you going to do with that? And it's like, what do you mean? What am I going to do with that? What are you going to do with your degree? I'm not asking you those questions. Like you're going to do what you want with that. That's the point, is like, we all get to choose what we're doing and we get to love it or hate it, but they're our own choices. So I think for the most part, I felt support in that. At the time when I lost my last job, and well, actually, there's so much to unpack, you guys. When you're in a relationship with someone for 6 years and you end it, it's like there's 1,000,001 layers to how it all is affected and affects you and like how you move on. And like, it's been 3 years, but at the same time, like sometimes I look back, like things will be happening and I look back and I'm like, oh, that's because this was happening. So, and I know that was really a lot of like not really telling you anything, but I guess when I think about it, I really wanted to start a YouTube channel when I moved to Austria. Like I was like, YouTube. That was where I wanted to start. I've always loved video as much, probably not as much as I love photo, but like I really love video. And I wanted to start it. And the guy I was dating at the time was an emotional roller coaster about it. And typically the roller coaster was 6 feet under and not supportive. So it was rather difficult to be with someone who's meant to be the closest person to you, your best friend. And like, at this point, someone I thought I was going to be with for maybe the rest of my life, but at least a very long time. And they weren't really supportive. They were supportive when it benefited them or it interested them, but not wholeheartedly. And then by the time I had lost my job and I had said, this is it, I'm going to do it, it was, I would say probably 75% of the time, it was only me dreaming as big as possible and only me saying like, I got this, I'm going to do it. And to be totally transparent, like, I think this is something that is really powerful and I probably don't share a lot of, but when I share about it in person, like versus online, is, you guys, I can scroll back onto my Instagram to every single photo that was taken when I was still in that relationship and tell you the argument that we got into about stupid things. And also the guy I was in a relationship with was also a photographer, and we were getting in arguments about me just wanting things tweaked because I was learning how to be in front of the camera and direct someone to like the things that I wanted and like to get the shots that I wanted and to transition it. Like I was learning everything while also still getting into arguments every single time a camera got brought out. Every single time by someone who was a photographer. So like it was very much like I was championing, whatever. I was rooting for myself a lot more than I think most people were. Sometimes I think out of negative feelings, but also, like I said, sometimes out of just not understanding what the world is that I'm entering.
That had to have been so vulnerable to, have this person, whoever it is. In this case, it was your partner at the time, but to have this person that is, supposed to be there for you unconditionally, and like the thing you love most, it's like these two most vulnerable parts of your life, like this relationship and your passion for photography, and to have that person make that an unsafe space, make your passion an unsafe space. It's like your home life isn't safe and joyful, and neither is your escape from your home life. That had to have been just suffocating.
It also could have very easily turned you away from this career and the passion that you had, but I'm so pleased that you really persevered through it all, and you've come through the other side, and you're still, I can see it when you have the camera in your hand or you're directing people on how to shoot you, and you've learned so much. It's, yeah, I'm pleased that you stuck to it, and you know, you didn't let that tear you down.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's never easy. Like, I mean, we talked about that in the decisions that you made, Maddie, like going into content creation. It's not an easy thing to keep choosing, because there are a lot of walls that you're breaking down in pretty much every, like, a 360-degree direction from yourself. But yeah, I think pushing through all of that, by the time I got out of that relationship, I was like, give me a tripod. Life is easy. I'm like, we're going.
I am curious, did you notice a shift in your work when you ended that relationship? I mean, I feel like art is so vulnerable and so tied to who you are and what you're going through.
Yeah, I think I had a really, really hard time. I still have a hard time sometimes asking people to help me shoot stuff. Um, and a lot of it comes from, like, I don't want to inconvenience people, because that's what it always felt like. So even if I'm with other creators, I'm like, oh my God, like, please tell me if you don't want to help me reshoot something, like if I'm being picky. Like, and I, to be honest, a lot of the time still accept things that, like, this, I'm like, oh, this isn't exactly what I wanted, but it's close enough, because I don't want to, like, inconvenience people. So even right after, it took me a long time to bring my actual camera out. I would just have people photograph me with my phone, and basically just like, and I'd have 2,000 photos to pick from. And I would just pray, like, okay, one of those has to be something that I want, you know? So I feel like there was definitely a lot of insecurity in creating. And that was just with me in front of the camera. I got to a point where it was like, I was even scared to just, like, pick up the camera and shoot in general, because I was like, who am I to think that I can shoot landscapes, or, like, shoot a town that I'm in, other than just, like, me, but I have to do it as quickly as possible. Like, there was very much a difference in, like, the workflow, and I almost had to completely retrain myself from everything I had learned in school, because when I graduated school, my camera was another limb. That thing, I could do anything with it attached to me. And then by the time I had decided I was doing content creation mixed with the relationship and exiting it, it was almost like an alien concept to pick up a camera and be like, oh, I can create with this still. I can do what I want. I can do what I want with it. And, like, I don't have to take influence from anyone else. Who am I then? Even in what I'm shooting, who am I? What do I want to shoot? Why am I doing this? And, like, we talked about the why and how that fuels content creation, like when we talked about your journey, Maddie. And that was when I figured out, like, my why. As much as I love to create, it started with, like, oh, I want to create and I want to share it and I want to travel. The why came down to, there are so many people in the world that feel like I do. If I can create something that shows people that there's a better world out there for them, and I can share a caption about it, then that's who I am when I shoot. I shoot to capture, like, who I am and who I want to be, so somebody else can feel that, hopefully, through, like, what I'm creating.
That's beautiful. And I think that is such an inspirational thing to a lot of people who are following you, and they read these captions and they see the hardships, or even not even particularly that, but, you know, they feel like they have a voice in you. And I think that's such a privilege to be able to share that.
Yeah.
For you guys listening who haven't seen Nikki's work, obviously go follow her at Nikki with 2 I's, or NIKKII Tomlin. Go follow her on all platforms, but she is such a phenomenal photographer, and I've seen her work. I've seen pieces of her portfolio from art school, which are just mind-blowing.
Totally different than what I do now.
We haven't even talked about this yet, but one of her specialties was astrophotography, which she's incredibly skilled at. But she is a force of nature, both in front of and behind the camera. Patrick and I have been shot by Nikki, with her behind the camera, and the way that she directs and communicates and sees things and captures things is it's like watching it sounds so cheesy, but it's like watching a great artist paint. Like it is incredible. And then you flip the camera around and you're like, there's no way she can be as good in front of the camera. And she is like this free spirit fairy princess angel in front of the camera. And not only is she like beautiful and confident, like the way she's moving her body and all of that, like she's doing that whilst telling you behind the camera what to do. Like it's such a joy to watch. When we were going back to Croatia a few weeks ago, for our listeners, Nikki and I were in Croatia a few weeks ago together. And one of the things I told Patrick, I was like, I'm so excited to just see Nikki work again because it brings me joy as your friend and as a consumer of your content. That like it just brings me joy to see you work and to know more of your backstory of like the vulnerability you had 3 years ago picking the camera back up. Like it is so incredible to see how you've healed. And I don't know if you'd say you're fully healed or whatever that looks like, but it is incredible to see you in that space.
I completely agree. And just to piggyback on what Maddie has said, when we were in Italy back in March in the castle, Nikki kind of took us through it was like a posing afternoon. All of us ladies were like, we feel so awkward in front of the camera. This is like hell on earth. And honestly, Nikki made us feel like we should be on Vogue. Like,
you guys should all be on Vogue.
The way that she was directing us with so much patience as well, and we all just, and gassing us up, I'm sorry. Having a hype woman behind the camera is amazing. But we all felt so confident at the end of it, and you were telling us exactly how to pose or how to lean so we looked the most natural and felt the most natural. And it was so incredible to watch you do that. So not only is it empowering for you, but it's so empowering for the people who you are shooting as well.
Yeah, I think that kind of like circles into what you were saying too, Maddie, about like the healing of it all is like in that process of coming out of that, picking up the camera, getting in front of it, like everything after that, the end of the relationship was like, I really realized I love making women feel good in front of the camera because I know all of those micro little things that are said to make you feel like you can't, or that even if you're just walking around, there's something about you that's just like not perfect and not pristine and like you're not graceful and you're not this. And it's like, no, you are. Like everybody has the ability to get in front of the camera and have a good photo taken of them that they love. And they deserve that. Everyone deserves that. I think like in our modern world with how obsessed we are with like media and these visuals and stuff, we all want good photos of ourselves. And I never, ever want someone to feel the way that I did when my ex was behind the camera. And I never want someone to have to do the years of healing that I did to be able to stand in front of it. Like, and I feel like when it comes to that, I've healed from that. I've grown from that. I think now in content, it's aligning this next version of me and these next chapters of my life with what I'm sharing online and how I create. It's I'm like learning how to create a little bit more. I think this is the first time that I think my skill set and my ability to pick up the camera and feel like it's a part of me is at the same stage as like I'm also picking up new versions of myself in the life that I'm living and trying to navigate that as well. This is the first time that I'm on the same page in both departments and exploring what's next. How do I make my photography more creative? How do I push the limits even when I'm on the go? How do I like express the things that I'm going through like while I'm traveling and creating and still speak to an audience of people who have watched me grow for the last 5 years that I've been doing this.
I think there's something undeniable that happens when women choose healing and confidence over fear and stagnation. It transforms communities. And you may not even realize it, but like your healing, your choice to heal, your choice to pursue confidence and courage is healing to, yeah, your community, on socials, but your community on this podcast, like Global Besties, but also Tyler and I, like to get to see where you were, hear about where you were, like see where you are now, it's so inspiring and it's so motivating to choose healing and choose confidence for ourselves, and it's just the most incredible thing when women step into that and just say, you know what, I'm doing this for me, because it's not, it ends up being for your community as well, even if you don't realize it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I just want women to feel like nowhere near as close to as down as I felt. And I feel like even in the friendships that I'm making, I want friends that are, they don't have to be the biggest hype girl behind the camera, but like they can be hype girls in different directions. And I think you're right in saying that. Like, even in the three of us, it's like there's so much strength and like undeniable like friendship and like the beauty of what each of us are doing in our own lives, but still being so supportive to one another.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like having these friendships, even if they are not in person, if they are thousands of miles across the world, like having that sense of community is something that is truly empowering, especially as women. I feel like we are always looking after everybody else first, and sometimes you have to be a little selfish and you have to look after yourself in order to look after everyone else. And being able to be in a community and do that together is really uplifting. So that made no sense whatsoever.
I think it did. I was following 100%. I was following, definitely. If I'm following, everyone else is following, because I've been through a lot in the last 24 hours. So
Facts.
we got you, girly. No, it is. And I'm curious, Nikki, for you, what, for our listeners who maybe are, wanting to pick up photography specifically, or contemplating something in the creative space or the world, or just even if it's a non-creative, business venture or idea that they have, like, what would you tell women or men? Global Besties can be men too. We'll see. It's early. We don't know our demos yet, but what would you say to people who are just on the cusp of like making this step into a creative field or into a courageous decision?
It's like the cheesiest thing, but it's like you only regret the things that you don't do. Like, you only regret the trip you don't take. You only regret the risk you don't take. Like, it's there. Of course, there's like calculated risk in it all. I feel like like if you feel something, like you want it, like I wanted my life to be travel and photography and creating, like, and there's still so many things that I want to do with it, but I know that's what I want. Don't give yourself a plan B. I think take the risk and don't give yourself a plan B. Maybe you have a million hoops to jump through to get there and somebody else did it in two, but who cares? It's your own journey. Like, you have to decide that what you want is like worth living for and worth pursuing, because waking up one day and looking at a TV and being like, wow, I wish I would have gone there, that's going to feel worse than if you would have tried and didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
I have such a clear visual of little Nikki right now watching that television with her mum and just being so proud of everything that you have achieved so far. And you've got so much more ahead of you, but she would be in awe at the things that you have seen, the things that you have captured, and the like trials and tribulations you've overcome. She would be so proud of you.
I think she would fall over and die.
She would say, wait, you saw an active volcano?
Yeah.
I saw an active volcano?
Seeing that active volcano that full circle moment was crazy.
Wait, I also love, Nikki, that a big part of your story was like these very just kind of like rites of passage, like quote unquote stereotypical or like cheesy moments in school. Like, I love that. I love that like someone coming into your elementary school and talking about travel made a difference. And I love that, things that you like did in middle school with your camera made a difference. So if we have any educator besties on this, like listening, you guys are making a difference. And I don't know if you guys, if you guys listening, or if Nikki and Tyler, if you guys follow, I think it's Mrs. or Pasquale. I should get her, but she's the teacher in Florida.
Yeah, I do.
No.
She's amazing.
But she literally is passionate about travel, and she takes her stuff back and she creates curriculum for her kids based on her travels.
Oh,
And it's the most unbelievable thing ever. Like, it's the coolest thing to watch. And her Instagram blew up last year when she turned her classroom into an airplane.
oh
Um,
my God. What? I need to
but
follow
it's
this
just like the
girl.
coolest thing ever. Yeah. We'll put her stuff in the show notes, but that kind of stuff matters. And, you know, if you guys are in education or have influence on kids in any way, like, teach them to dream big, which sounds so cheesy, but like, if you're not, who is?
Yeah, what 100%. Like, and just to touch note really quick, like it's so crazy that you say like all the school stuff, like in these cheesy things. I loved school, you guys. Like I loved school. Like let my brain just absorb things. Like I loved going to school. I loved it so much. So it makes sense for that to be part of my journey, but also encouraging kids to dream big is like I agree with that so wholeheartedly. Like I have 3 nieces and a nephew, and they are my favorite humans in the world. Like all I've ever wanted to be is an aunt, and I'm so happy that I get to be one. And people ask me all the time, like, isn't it so sad being so far away from them? And I'm so grateful that I live in a world where like modern technology exists and I can FaceTime them. But my biggest thing in being away from my family is my nieces and nephew have every example of what it looks like to grow up, maybe do what society expects of you, maybe not, but you still like live a little adjacent. Like they have every like from home example that they could ever need in front of them. Why would I stay home and just give them another example when my dream is to travel the world, to be able to show them that? Like I want them to know that they can dream big, and it doesn't have to cap at the city limits of our town. It doesn't have to cap at the state limits. It doesn't have to cap in the United States. Like dream as far as you want, as big as you want. And like that doesn't even have to be just my nieces and nephew. Like that can be any kid. Like I don't care if there's some kid watching me on Instagram. There's maybe some things that some kids don't want to see that maybe their parents should filter that. But it's like at the same time, you can influence a generation in so many ways.
Not only that, but like adults too, because so many people follow the society's norms, or they will kind of live one life that isn't truly authentic to themselves. And it is never too late to really chase after your dreams.
Never. I wholeheartedly agree. I'm always telling people, I've gotten a few DMs. This is maybe a little crazy, but like I've gotten DMs of people being like, I quit my job because of you today. And I'm like, fuck yeah, you did. Like I love it when people are like, you're so right. Like I can figure out life with, maybe I got to get another job before I can like start traveling the world if that's what I want to do. But like, I don't need to be in a job where I'm treated like crap. I can get another job where like maybe I don't love it, but at least I'm not treated poorly. Like you can level up in those steps to eventually get to where you want to go. And it is never too late to do it. You totally hit that right on the head, Ty.
I think what you were saying earlier about like having no plan B, sometimes plan B is like a crash mat. And if you take off, if you take flight and you know that crash mat is there, you know that you'll be fine and you can just land. But if there's no crash mat there, then you have to fly. And you'll do whatever means necessary to do so.
It's kicking yourself out of a nest.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I do think there is something to be said about like just commit to it. You know, don't be scared of the commitment, because, you know, like you guys are saying, that commitment is what is going to bring you through the highs and lows of it. There are going to be a lot of lows of whatever your dream is at some point, but there are also going to be those highs, and just making it a non-negotiable. That's a phrase that we use a lot in our household, like, and also just with business and stuff. Like, it's a non-negotiable that the travel mentors has to work. It just is. Like, it just is a non-negotiable. And we've kind of said that from the beginning. Like, this is a non-negotiable because the things that we are passionate about and want to do require it to work. So it has to work. And we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think having that, like telling yourself that your dream is non-negotiable, is the key to doing it, just pursuing it.
Yeah, and all the what ifs and like even the down days, it's like I have had some dark, dark, dark days in this content creation photography journey, but I still wake up every single day and I'm like, there is not a single thing I would rather be suffering through.
Mm-hmm.
But like, even though I'm upset and I feel like the world is crashing and burning around me and I'm never going to make my dreams come true, at the end of the day, I'm still going to wake up and try because I don't have a crash mat. I didn't give myself an option. I made it non-negotiable.
I think, like, on that note as well, we're not obviously financial advisors and whatnot, but just because there's no crash mat doesn't mean you can't have a little propeller on the back of you. So, like, if you need to get your ducks in a row first, you need to figure your shit out and, you know, have a safety net in terms of money behind you. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Completely understand. We don't want people sort of like just dropping everything and running and not having thought this through. But
there's a level of responsibility in the risk.
We just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. Yeah.
Please,
but I think
do not use this
even some of those decisions. Yeah, but I think even some of those decisions are part of the non-negotiable. Like if you're in a job that you hate and you know that the next step isn't like just logistically can't be your dream, maybe the next step is just getting on LinkedIn and looking for jobs. Mm-hmm. Like it's not permanent. Just because you look for a new job doesn't mean all of a sudden you're quitting your job. Like there's so many steps between just blowing up your life and like, you know, doing something amazing. Like sometimes just getting on ChatGPT and saying like, how do I make this a side hustle? Or getting on, you know, Indeed and looking at just Googling jobs. Sometimes that can be the non-negotiable step that you take. So I think, Ty, you're exactly right. It doesn't have to be like, it shouldn't be like this reckless, irresponsible thing, but at some point, even those baby steps take a ton of courage.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people think about like, oh, the dream life I want is this, they think I'm going to flip my whole life upside down today. Like the one decision I make is going to flip my life upside down today. No, it took me 6 months to flip my life upside down this time. To go from paying rent to living full-time out of a 40-liter backpack, that took me 6 months. That's probably the fastest I've ever flipped my life upside down. Every other big decision that I've ever made took months and months and months of time prior to that. So like, if you just take one step, like getting on LinkedIn, you're just like chipping away. Chipping away at the tip.
I think as long as your goal is always at the back of your mind and it is always what's another word for goal? It's always the like main objective, then you're going to be stepping in the right direction. I think as soon as you lose sight of that, you can get stuck in the mundane and the day-to-day life. And if that's not what you want, if that is what you want, then great. But like, if that is not what you want to achieve, that's where you do get caught. But always have that goal or that big dream as inspiration and something to aim for.
Go for it.
I think for me, it was talking to Ben about it. So my husband and I, we have an account called The Infrequent Flyers. And when we had kind of come to this decision to start it, well, it was very much a me decision, I suppose. I'm sure we'll come on to my story in another episode. But I said to him, look, I really want to do this and I want to make it work and I want to give it a red hot crack. do you want to be involved, or shall I do this on my own? Because either way, as long as you're supporting me, I'm happy. And he was like, no, let's do it together. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yes. But that was the first time I'd really said to anyone, I suppose, like, I want to do this and really give it a go and put myself out there in the public eye and maybe scrutiny and whatnot. And it was, I don't know, it felt really validating being able to say it out loud, especially knowing you're going to tell somebody who wasn't going to judge you for it, because that's kind of half the battle in itself. Yeah, that was probably my moment. What about yours?
Yeah, I think I don't have like a defining, like, I'm going to post to the internet and I'm telling people about it moment. I think I just kind of started doing it without really saying much of anything to anyone. I think YouTube was a little bit more intense in the sense that, like, this was going to take time. Like, I couldn't just like take some photos and post to Instagram, because when I started, reels weren't a thing. Like, it, you know, it was like, take a few photos, post to Instagram. Where like YouTube, it was like I would have to dedicate time. I would be filming myself kind of thing, and then editing. I know that there was some kind of conversation with my ex, but I don't really remember it being really substantial in any way. But I think coming out of that relationship and already being in the content creator world, and now it became like decisions about my business and like things I wanted to do with my business, and like choices I wanted to make in my lifestyle, places I wanted to move. Like, I've always been a dreamer. Like, I'll say things out loud, like, oh, how cool would that be? I'd really like to do that. Like, but I say all of these things and then I have to kind of like wrangle myself back in of like, okay, what am I actually going to do? What actually feels like me and is aligned versus like, I'm dreaming 12 directions. So I'm still learning that. I'm still learning to like pick things that feel truly meant for me. And I think the last time I had something that I was like, oh, this is it, was when I was like, I'm going to travel full time. And I think the first person I said it to was my niece. And she was 16 at the time. And I just think I felt like, one, obviously we have a very close relationship, but I was like, okay, if I say it to her, it was like the good kind of expectation. She would be like expectant of me to do it because I've shown her the things that I've said I'm going to do before. Mm-hmm. And she's excited about those. And she's like, it's so cool that you do that. So like telling her was like less daunting than like telling my mom or my friends who have heard all of my other ideas that I haven't followed through on. Where like if I told her and I spoke it out loud and she said, that'd be really cool. And then she kept like going, oh, are you doing that still? Every couple of weeks. And she'd be like, did you buy, like, I think the next time after I had said to her, I think I'm going to start traveling full time. And like, this was like kind of my rough travel plan in a dreamed up world. She said, the next time she talked to me, she's like, did you buy your flight yet? And I was like, flight? There's like a million things I got to do before I get to a flight. But that in her brain was like, that's the next step. You said you were going to do it. Why haven't you bought your flight yet? And I was like, oh my God, she's right. Why haven't I bought my flight yet? Why haven't I done the 12 other things that I need to do to buy my flight? Okay, I got to do these 12 other things. And it was that like little bit of like, somebody's looking up to me. Mm-hmm. Somebody has an expectation of me in the most wholesome way.
You want to be that cool auntie.
Yeah,
that you are.
That I was like, yeah, this feels really aligned and this is what I really want to do. And now my niece knows about it and she really thinks I should do that. So I'm going to do it.
She's holding you accountable.
Yeah. She doesn't know it.
She doesn't know it, but you know.
Yeah.
You don't want to let her down either.
Yeah,
you want to show her that,
I don't want to be here for Christmas because I told her I was going to be gone.
Yeah. You're like, now I just have to hide out somewhere.
Yeah.
What about you, Maddie? Do you have like a specific moment that you remember in your mind?
I'm similar to Nikki in the sense of I'm a dreamer, so I'm always saying crazy statements out loud and then being like, but did I actually mean it? Like, I'll kind of say it out loud to gauge like other people's, usually Patrick's response. I'm like, what if we started a foundation? Wait, never mind. But I'm being serious, so tell me.
Hi, this podcast.
Yeah, kind of like this podcast. Just being like, what if we start a podcast? He. But seriously, let's start a podcast. Yeah, I can remember just kind of, I don't remember the exact date or where I was, but I remember those first conversations about, so we didn't know the name would be Travel Mentors at that point, but just being like, what if we started, like, what if we posted travel stuff online? And I think for me, it almost always starts with the question of what if. And I want to encourage listeners for you guys to ask yourself that. Like, ask yourself those what if questions. Like, ask yourself, what if I became a content creator? What if I left my job? Or what if I, put myself out there to go on a date? Or like, what if I called this person back? Or I don't know, whatever it is.
What if I moved to the city I've been dreaming about for years? Like,
Yeah, you have to start there. And gosh, my encouragement to the listeners is find someone, an emotionally safe person. Don't tell a hater, but, find someone. Like, I want to encourage you guys to tell someone your dreams. Literally say it out loud. Because if you can't say it out loud, there's not going to be that wholehearted commitment to it. And there's something about saying your dream out loud that just is quite literally the first baby step that you have to take, because it's going to take a village. Your dream is going to take a village, and you can't expect your village to show up for you if they don't know about your dream. And villages are different sizes. For some of you, your village might be one other person. For some of you guys listening, it might be 1,000 people, but it's going to take the support of other people. And maybe we're part of your village. That would be such an honor for us, to be part of your village. And maybe the person you tell your dream to is us. Like, send us a DM, send us a voice memo, send us an email. Like, we want to know what your dream is. And if we're the first people that you say it out loud to, like, we will cherish that and we will hold that and we'll celebrate with you, because we know how much it takes a village to do all of this. And so that's your homework, Global Besties, is to say it out loud.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to say a lot of things out loud before you find what feels right. So, like, be a dreamer, say a few things out loud and see what feels like it's yours.
I love it. We're excited for you guys. Oh, Global Besties. Well, Nikki and I, we kind of dug into your story today, and we appreciate your vulnerability with it and your willingness to just kind of walk through the messy action that you took and the messy action that you're still taking. You are an inspiration, I know, to Tyler and I, and hopefully to all of those who are going to come follow you and listen to this podcast. But Ty, we are so stoked to dive in the next episode to your story. I love that all three of us have such different stories and similarities in a lot of ways, but also things that are different. I think it's part of what makes this podcast fun is listening to and kind of engaging with and hearing stories of three women basically in their 30s. Ty's almost 30, but just figuring it out, figuring out what, where do we come from? What's happening in our lives? What decisions are we making? Where can we be bold? Where are we literally terrified out of our minds? But
I agree. I feel like this is just fabulous, and I'm so excited to hear Ty's story.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to sharing, but I think we should do the sign off, right?
Yeah. Make sure you guys rate, review, and subscribe on all the platforms, wherever you're listening, and send this to somebody who maybe needs to be a little bit of a dreamer.
And as Maddie said, please send your dreams to us in the DMs. Perhaps we'll put some link on our stories as well when this episode goes live, and that'll be a 1,000 Miles Pod on Instagram and on TikTok. And remember, you belong here.